Alright guys, we have it. Chevy released the brand new 2020 C8 mid-engine Corvette. That is a mouthful. They released it yesterday. They started at 10:50. I think technically it was released at 11 o'clock last night, guys. So there's a lot to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. Let's start with the interior because something you guys are not aware of, the interior of all the Corvettes, previously speaking, were always under a lot of scrutiny. I think the C7 really stepped it up. I think a lot of people no longer complain about the interior of the C7 Corvette, but the C8 guys, I think the interior is phenomenal, guys. Let's take a second to talk about the seats first. There are 3 seats. You have the GT1, the GT2, and the competition seats. All look, in my eyes, phenomenal. They all have different options now. This is no longer your standard, black, tan, red interior. Everything's pretty customizable. You'll see kind of where in this video where GM's sort of going for a semi-exotic approach here, obviously, and the interior is no exception. There's a lot of different options, a lot of different combinations you could do to kind of make the Corvette your own. Second thing I want to talk about real quick while talking about the interior is the steering wheel. This is a very unique steering wheel, guys. You can kind of see here that it has this big opening on the top. They did that on purpose, guys. They want you to be able to see the whole dash. They want you to be able to see outside. They want you to be able to see everything. They don't want anything in the way. The steering wheel overall looks pretty cool. I don't know, something about it does seem off, but I'm no expert, and I'm sure over time it will grow on me. So moving along, guys, getting right into it again, let's talk about the exterior, which is the first thing you see, which is usually the first thing you put an opinion on, is the exterior of any vehicle, actually. So I think overall the car looks phenomenal, but let's talk about the colors real quick. There's a total of 12 colors for the new C8 Corvette. 2 more than last generation, which is actually another thing people complain about, is the lack of choice of colors on Corvettes. It's usually red, yellow, and dark colors. But let's get into it. They are bringing back the torch red, which from my understanding has been along most of the generation of the Corvettes, if not all the Corvettes. They're bringing in a new yellow that from what I'm being told, has a blue tint in the yellow. They're also bringing along what they're calling a Zeus bronze, which is like a darker, as it says, bronze color. Which, once again, my only complaint is I would like to see a little bit more pop colors, maybe some type of green, maybe something that really kind of, if they're going for the more exotic look, a lot of exotic cars have really cool greens. They have oranges, so there is an orange with this new Corvette. I would like to see a little bit more of some pop options to really make this thing stand out, because this car has a lot of presence. It's very exotic looking. It kind of has like this Ferrari / NSX look to it. I know some people might view that as a negativity, like they're copying, but let's be honest, guys. If you're making a mid-engine car or a rear-engine car, there's going to be similarities, because obviously you're going to want to have the best and latest technology, and most exotic cars that are mid-engine have scoops on the side that allow air to go to the back of the motor to help cool off the motor. So there's going to be a lot of styling cues that are going to remind you of other vehicles, and it's not necessarily copying, it's just, well, what it is. So tell me what you think below, how you think the new C8 Corvette looks. I think it overall looks phenomenal. We'll talk a little bit more of that in a second here. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, right, guys? Let's talk about the performance, and let's start with the engine, guys. This is going to be the brand new LT2 engine, which makes sense because the one in the C7 was the LT1. They're carrying over the pushrod style motor with a bunch of new technology. The motor is going to be rated for 490 to 495 horsepower. That's the difference of 5 horsepower comes in with the performance pack. I'm assuming exhaust or tuning or something to that effect. Not that you'll feel 5 horsepower. It is predicted that the 0 to 60 will be under 3 seconds, which is, let me add, stupidly fast. Let me put that in perspective for you guys. The ZR1 for the C7, which is 755 horsepower, is 2.8 seconds 0 to 60. There's many variables. 0 to 60 is not just power. It has a lot to do, mostly just traction, to be honest with you. It's how much traction the vehicle have, how well can it get off the line, how well can it shift, which we'll get into the DCT here in a second. The new LT2 also has a dry sump system. I don't know why I stuttered there, but it has what we'll just call the DSS. The dry sump system, or the DSS, is a oil system put into place while under usually racing conditions. You're on a racetrack and the car is producing a lot of G-forces. The system helps keep oil pressure, which is very important. Another fun fact about the DSS is that the engineers actually said that with this system it helps lower the engine and the transmission lower into the car, which is also lowering the center of gravity. Speaking of the transmission, I think it's a good time to talk about the transmission. This is the very first dual clutch transmission in a Corvette, guys. This is big news. DCTs, or dual clutch transmissions, are starting to work their way into American cars. Ford just introduced a DCT for the brand new Shelby GT500, which they're working with Tremec. I'm not sure who's producing the Corvette DCT. I don't know if that's something that's in-house. I didn't really read much. Couldn't find much on as far as if it's something Chevy's doing or if they're working with someone like Tremec to do it. I find that interesting. I'm not going to really get into explaining what a DCT is. I think I'll just sound like an idiot. But what I will do is we're going to show a quick clip on Chevy's definition of a dual clutch transmission.
A dual clutch transmission is effectively two manual gearboxes that have clutches actuated by computers on a concentric shaft. So what that really means is you've got a shaft that has your even forward gears, 2, 4, 6, 8, and your odd gears, 1, 3, 5, 7. And you can simultaneously be disengaging one shaft while you're engaging the other one. So it's quicker than a human being could shift a manual transmission. This way you get the lightning fast, less than 100 milliseconds shift when you need it. We've also found that during very aggressive launches, we can actually drive torque through both shaft clutches simultaneously. So you'll be on an upshift, engaging third gear, but still driving torque through second as you're engaging third. This actually improves the 0 to 60 performance of the car beyond what you could achieve in a manual transmission.
And there you guys have it. That's Chevy's definition of a dual clutch transmission. As I mentioned in the video, this transmission will shift in 100 millionths of a second, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. Basically, it's really, really fast. It's about a blink of an eye. Nothing that you and I could really do. But I also like to mention that, traditionally speaking, what really helps a lot of these transmission outs, even if it's a traditional torque converter, it's really with these 8, 7, 9 speed transmissions, dual clutch, whatever. The gearing is phenomenal with these cars. I think Street Speed, if you're a subscriber of his, just did a video with his ZR1, which is an 8-speed auto versus a 7-speed manual, and he just walked away against this ZR1 manual transmission. I mean, just walked away. And a lot of that to do with, obviously, the shifting capabilities of these transmissions, but something people don't talk about is the gearing. Usually the gearing in these 8-speed autos, 8-speed dual clutches, whatever they are just so much better and always keep the engine in its power band so much better that it's just no comparison for the manual transmission. Speaking of the manual transmission, there is some bad news for all us car enthusiasts. There is none. They're not actually bringing a manual transmission for the C8. It's just not going to happen. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. Comment below, tell me how you feel about that. I've never owned a dual clutch transmission, so if I was to be in the market for the C8, I wouldn't mind, or even the new Shelby GT500, which is also not being offered in the manual transmission. I actually wouldn't mind having one. I don't know in the long run, once you finally own a dual clutch, if you're going to want to go back to manual. The only thing you can look at evidence-wise that does start to support the manual transmission is Porsche. Porsche has been, and it still is, the king of dual clutch transmissions. They have the PDK, which is, I've never driven, but, I mean, if you open up any magazine or, watch any video on any Porsche, it's just PDK is top-notch dual clutch transmission. And the demand for manual transmissions is so high now with Porsche that they reintroduced it to the GT3 and other models, even though the 7-speed manual transmission of Porsche can't compete with the PDK. People just want the experience. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not always about having the fastest car, although you want to have the fastest car. It's about the experience. And some people prefer a 500 horsepower inline or naturally aspirated high revving 6-speed, 7-speed manual transmission over, let's say, an 800 horsepower dual clutch GTR, for example. But that's a conversation for another day. But make sure you comment below. I'm curious what your input is on the DCT, and if they should offer a manual transmission for the C8 mid-engine Corvette, guys. Although it's very shocking there's a mid-engine Corvette, I did not see this coming, although there's been plenty of indicators. There's been plenty of talks about them doing a mid-engine Corvette throughout history. I'm not talking about obviously when the spy shots come out. That was very obvious. That that was about 3 years ago. The spy shots came out, so everybody kind of knew that they were doing a mid-engine Corvette. But before that, I had no idea. It's kind of like we're in a crazy world, right, guys? We have the Dodge Demon. We have mid-engine Corvettes. We have Mustangs that have flat plane cranks, which are very much something that exotic cars have. We are, in my opinion, the golden age. I think the 60s have nothing on us right now. These cars are unbelievable. As surprising, where I'm going with this, maybe a little sidetrack, as surprising as it is that we have a mid-engine Corvette, I think I'm more surprised by the price. I really thought this car would be starting around $70,000, $80,000 with the potential of pricing itself out. I didn't understand to an extent where Chevy was going with this, but now that they're introducing a base price of $60,000, I think they said it's under 60. I'm sure it's like $59,995. But let's just say $60,000, I'm blown away. I mean, even if you wanted to get some options on it, if you can afford a $60,000 car, you probably afford, let's say, a $70,000 car. So even if you want to get some options and you bump it up to 70, I mean, this is a hell of a vehicle. This thing, I mean, the next thing that even comes close to this looks is like an NSX, and that's, what, 130? Not that there's not technology in that car that this Corvette doesn't have, and that was kind of the whole purpose of the Corvette, and that's why at this price point, to me, in my heart, it's still a Corvette. The whole purpose of a Corvette, you could bitch about this, you could bitch about the interior, it's not Porsche quality, it's not this, it's not that, it's obtainable. That's the point of a Corvette. Not that it's an excuse for it to underperform or not have the interior or yada yada yada, but at the end of the day, it's something you can obtain. If you want, like for me, I love Porsches, but I don't want a base 911. I want a GT3 or GT3 RS or Turbo S or something nuts. Something that's going to at least cost me probably $130,000, $140,000. That's before God knows what type of adjustments there might be for these vehicles, because the following is insane. And Porsche is very good with the demand versus supply, if you will. But that's what Corvette's always been. It's always been something you can obtain. I mean, for crying out loud, you can actually get a C6 Z06 right now. As low as, I think I've seen as low as $25,000, but even $30,000, $35,000, you can get a C6 Z06, which has the manual transmission, by the way, but also has a 7-liter V8, 505 horsepower car. So these Corvettes are bargains, whether you're getting them new, whether you're getting them used. They look stunning. They, obviously they have some things that people don't like about them. But they're stunning vehicles at a hell of a value. Real quick, I almost forgot to mention, I want to talk about the price again real quick, about the $60,000. I want to talk about where it puts this vehicle. First things first, it actually puts it very competitive with the new Supra, which I think is a rebadged BMW, and I think it's a flunk, and I have a whole other video on that. Not necessarily, it's not that it's a flunk or a failure per se. It's something that ever should be called the Super, but once again, I have a whole other video on that if you want to check it out, link in the description. It actually is cheaper than, you ready for this? We're talking about, it's cheaper than the new GT500, cheaper than the Hellcat, especially cheaper than the Hellcat Red Eye. It's even cheaper than its own Camaro cousin, if you will, the Z01. Now granted, guys, yes, I'm talking about trim levels of the highest level with these pony cars, with these supercharged motors that are making anywhere from 650 to almost 800 horsepower. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison, but it puts it in perspective that you can get an exotic mid-engine Corvette starting at less than, a high-end pony car. It just kind of helps it put it in perspective. It's way cheaper than, I've already mentioned, the Porsches, and I kind of wanted to take a second to talk about that, guys. So I want to wrap this video up real quick. My opinion is, things I don't like real quick about the Corvette. It's not much. I've never driven it, obviously. No one has. I've driven a few Corvettes in my life. I've driven a C5 Z06. I've driven my father's a C6. I haven't driven a C7. I really want to drive a C7. I've been in them plenty of times, but I really want to drive one. But overall, I mean, the taillights might need to grow on me. I'm not 100% sold on the taillights. I don't understand the deal with the buttons. I just don't. I feel like they could do something a little bit better with that. Not that buttons are cool. I mean, I love all the gimmicky stuff. I love all, like, you know, the Ford GTs and the Ferraris have all the toggles, and even the Mustang, I think, has, you know, your $35,000 Mustang has like toggles, just kind of like a fighter jet does. So I'm all for that gimmicky stuff. I love it. I can eat it up, but that's a whole lot of buttons. I'm not sure how I feel about that. We'll have to see how the reliability is. Obviously, there was some question of reliability from the get-go when these things were breaking. Hopefully, that stuff's all worked out. But I'm excited. I think this car is going to sell like hotcakes. This is going to be, I mean, every YouTuber is going to buy one. I mean, you got your first mid-engine vehicle, like I said, starting at $60,000. Even if you want to purchase a base vehicle just to have it, or even make it your own, do your own modifications to it. But like I said, I'm sure you could probably, even if you bump up, even if you throw another $10,000 out for some options, you probably have yourself a really nice car at $70,000. I did forget to talk about the Z51 package that is coming out as well. That is sort of their top dog until they introduce either a Z06 or a Z01 package as well. This has better tires. This has the front splitter, different exhaust, the spoiler in the back, and I believe, and some people have been complaining, I believe you do need the performance pack to do the under 3 seconds 0 to 60 time, which some people have been kind of bitching about. So that's about it. I think we'll wrap this video up. Please comment below. I'd love to know what you guys have talked, what you guys think. Jesus, what you guys think about this new vehicle. I'm very excited. If you like this video, guys, if you find it helpful, please smash that like button. Please consider subscribing to my channel, guys. I love to do all updates on all new vehicles, as well. I have a Charger Scat Pack 392 and a Supra single turbo that I'm almost done, and that's going to be a lot of fun with a lot of video, guys. I'll see you guys next video. Take it easy. Peace.